Hey, it's A Humble Collector here, and today's video we're doing another unboxing. This is probably the largest one we've done in a while. This is well over a month. It might even be closer to 2 months worth of purchases. There were a lot of really good death cards that sold for very cheap. There was just a massive stack of them, and the items in the large box that was on the thumbnail I'm very excited about. The one package has arrived today. The second package in this set was supposed to come today, but is now coming tomorrow. So I will edit that one on at the end of this video. So definitely stick around to the end because there's some really cool World War I pieces in there that I've been hoping to get my hands on for a while. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. So the first thing here, we have a couple of death cards that I had to open up prior to the video because the seller's address is on the front and back. And the first couple in here include some of the nicest cards that we've gotten in a while. So that includes a very rare rank to find a card for, a very rare award to find written on a card and actually shown in the photograph, and a very rare photograph. So just some really cool stuff. So we'll go ahead and get started here. So here we have the card of Johann Wilhelm, who was a noble Gefreiter in a Pioneer Regiment, bearer of the Iron Cross Second Class, the Wound Badge, the Assault Badge, and the Crete Badge. Who fell on January 21st, 1944 in the heavy fighting in the East. So the fighting on Crete was pretty vicious during the Second World War. There was a special cuff title that was awarded to soldiers that had fought on Crete. Now, I've seen it referenced on maybe like 2 or 3 other cards, but this is the first card where I've ever seen it actually in the photo. So you can actually see the Krita armband there. Super cool, very rare. I paid a bit of premium for this card, but I hadn't seen one like it before. And I did already look at it under the jeweler's loop. It is consistent with period printing, so this definitely seems to be an original card. Very excited to have that now. So the next card we have here, this is probably one of the most fascinating photos that I've seen on a death card in a very long time. The only other one that comes close to this is a World War I card I unboxed a few years ago for a guy that saw service in China prior to World War I, and then actually had a photograph of him in the trenches in front of a bunker on his death card. So this is the card of Albert Hilger, who was a Gefreiter in a Gebirgsjäger regiment, who fell or died on June 22nd, 1941, the first day of Operation Barbarossa. And as you can see, we have this insane outdoor photograph of him here with his ammo pouches on. In the background, we have stacked Mausers. We have other soldiers milling about. And the seller, I don't know if I see it, but the seller thinks this might actually be a Puma back here. Behind his head. I don't know if I agree with that, but still, it is a stunning photograph, and you don't see photos like this on death cards often at all. So definitely a cool card, and very happy that I was able to pick that up. And if we move on to the next one here, if I can remember how to open plastic bags. All right, here we have the death card of Wilhelm and Karl Hart. Wilhelm Hart fell on February 28th, 1945 by Königsberg, and Karl Hart would fall in December of 1944 by Stalino. It was probably like an early post-war card given the later dates of their deaths here, but also the fact we don't see any swastikas or other Nazi imagery. Seems to be pretty typical of early post-war printing. And the last of the 3 big cards I was talking about, as you saw there before I take it out of the bag, is for General Major Georg Hofmeister, who was a veteran of the First World War and the Second, bearer of various awards, who died on October 2nd, 1959 at the age of 68. So Georg was, if I'm remembering correctly, in charge of the 136th Gebirgsjäger Regiment for about a year during World War II. He held a couple different posts. In his photo here, we can actually see the 1939 clasp of the Iron Cross, which indicates he was awarded the Iron Cross in both World War I and World War II. I've never seen a death card for a general come up before, so when I saw this, I knew it was something I had to have. This was actually shown to me by a fellow collector. He messaged me and said, hey, you're going to want to see this, and I definitely wanted to. Also, I looked at this under the jeweler's loop, and the printing is still consistent with what you'd expect to see on a World War II and a World War I card. So it seems like even as late as 1959, they were still using the same printing techniques, which is always kind of interesting to see. So moving on here, we have the 2-pound death card of Lorenz Bartel, who was an Oberjäger at Gewürzträger Regiment in a Luftwaffe division, veteran of the campaign in Russia, who fell at Halbensel-Schwaben in the east on October 29th, 1944. And Leopold Roos, who was born July 18th, 1904 in Göppingen and fell on May 4th, 1945 in Kiel. And we can see he's not only a Leutnant, but also a ship's engineer. So Kriegsmarine card, very cool to see. And yeah, also seems to be a pretty early post-war card, if I had to guess. And moving on to the next one here, have a couple cards in that envelope. First one is for Johann Meyer, who was an Obergefreiter in infantry regiment who fell on July 25th, 1943 by Arel. Arel's a name that you see on a lot of these cards. Seems like there was some pretty heavy fighting there during the war. And the next card here is for Gottfried Bauer, who was an Oberfeldwebel in a Grenadier regiment, who on July 26, 1943, at the age of 29, fell in the east. And on the back of the card here, we have a really nice backplate with a field grave. Now my neighbors are mowing, but my neighbors, I mean, like further down the street, not the ones right next door, so I'm hoping the camera's not picking that up, because we have a lot more cards to get through, and I really don't want to stop filming. Next card here is a memory of Sylvester Schmidt, who died September 23rd, 1942, and he was a Gefreiter in an infantry regiment, and it looks like he was killed south of the Ladoga Seas, which I believe would be Lake Ladoga. I feel like I've seen that name come up a few times as well. And what's interesting here, we can actually see him with some medical collar tabs, which is pretty unusual. So that's the end of all the cards I had to open up beforehand. Just to give you an idea of how many packages I have here. This is, now granted, most of these probably only have 1 or 2 cards in them, but still, I didn't realize how many had stacked up until I went to grab them today, and I was quite surprised. So moving on here to the next package, and it looks like there is a sales invoice in here, so I'll just open that up off camera. Help if I didn't drop everything. So we have a few cards here. Now this is actually from a seller who does a bit of research on their cards before they sell them, which is very unusual. Most sellers just kind of sell cards. You know, it's kind of like what you see is what you get. So starting with Franz here, if I can pick that up. So Franz was killed on October 3rd, 1943 on the island of Kos in Greece. And he was apparently part of the 6th Company of Grenadier Regiment 16. And moving to Michael here. So Michael was apparently a Gefreiter in an infantry gun platoon, it looks like. And he was born July 24th, 1923, and fell August 18th, 1944 in Lithuania. And it looks like he was a member of the 7th Company of Grenadier Regiment 149 per the sales invoice. So interesting, you don't see like an infantry gun company or infantry gun platoon called out very often. And also, as we can see here, he seems to have an infantry assault badge and a ribbon there. So that's pretty cool. Moving on to the next envelope. And let's see, it looks like they sandwiched that between some postcards. We'll just very carefully cut that tape. All right, we got a few cards in there. Alrighty, so right off the bat, we have Franz Ipselkofer, who's an Obergefreiter in a Pioneer Battalion. He was born December 14th, 1911, and fell August 13th, 1942. And as we can see here, we actually have a Panzer Assault Badge, which is kind of an unusual award to see on a death card. You don't see them very often. So given the fact that he is a pioneer and has that badge, he most likely belonged to some kind of mechanized unit. Because even though it is a Panzer Assault Badge, it has a tank on it. There were 2 different variants. One was for armored vehicle crews, for like tank crews, and one was for pretty much anybody else that fought from an armored vehicle, Panzer Grenadiers, self-propelled guns, and in this case, probably him for being in a like mechanized pioneer unit of some kind. So definitely an interesting card. And the next one that we have here is for Franz Englander, who died at the age of 21 on February 9th, 1945 in Maline, Texas, America, in a POW camp. So this is another card that a friend of mine actually pointed out to me. So you do occasionally see cards for German soldiers that died in American POW camps, but they're very rare compared to like Soviet POW camps for obvious reasons. The death rate was significantly lower in the American camps. And also, generally, the POWs were there for a much shorter time. I mean, you had guys that were in Soviet captivity well into the 1950s. There's just a lot longer period for them to die off, even post-war. So yeah, definitely a cool card. He's actually still buried here in the U.S. As well, so pretty interesting in that regard. Then we have the card of Josef Wurzer here, who is a Panzerschütze in a Panzer Regiment, bearer of the Iron Cross Second Class, who fell on December 29th, 1941 at the age of 22. Very unusual large circular photo, not something you see very often on death cards, and of course having his Panzer wrap there clearly visible. And the photo looks a bit odd here, so I want to take a quick look at it under the jeweler's loop. And it does appear to be a period print. It must just be a bit, it must be just because all the dirt on the card. It looks like it's rather worn out. Now you're probably wondering, how does a death card get worn like that? And usually that comes about either from handling over the years or from improper storage. In this case, it could be a little bit of both. Could have been stored in a drawer up in an attic. It could have also been tucked into a prayer book for many years. And of course, one of his family members or friends often took it out to look at his card and pray for him. Definitely a fairly common occurrence. That's why you see cards that are in a bit rough shape a lot. So moving on to the next envelope here. Looks like the sales invoice is in this one as well. Yes, this is another pretty interesting card for Ludwig Haas, who is an Obergefreiter in a Panzer Regiment, who at Fulgen in the East was died of wounds on December 25th, 1941 at the age of 29. Very cool photo here. We can actually see he has a rifle slung over his shoulder. His helmet seems to be hanging on his belt there. Very cool. You don't see, granted, we don't actually see the rifle, but you don't see weapons in photos from World War II death cards very often. And helmets are also a bit uncommon, especially when worn on the belt like that. So, very cool card there. Go on to the next one. There's an invoice in this as well. Oh, actually, it's two old postcards. One from 86 and also from 86. Oh, very cool. Alrighty. What are these postcards from? Oh, okay. It's pretty neat. And the card here is for Karl Peisel, who was a Gefreiter in a Grenadier Regiment, bearer of the Iron Cross Second Class, the Wound Badge, who died on July 11th, 1944 at the age of 20. Very interesting. We have some bleed through there from the front of the card as well. And the other card in this sleeve bit stuck there with the static, is for Armin Bieber, who was a graduate of the humanities at Lohr in 1940, lieutenant and company Führer in a Grenadier Regiment, bearer of the Iron Cross First and Second Class, the Infantry Assault Badge. He was born on November 12th, 1920 in Wolfmannshausen, and fell on February 24th, 1943 at Orel. So, like I said earlier, Orel had a lot of fighting going on. It's a pretty good card. Alrighty, and the next card that we have here, or the next envelope to open up. It's another one from the same seller, packaged between two postcards. All right, so here we have the death card of Eugen Rieger, who was a soldier in a pioneer battalion, born on March 8th, 1918, and fell on April 23rd, 1941 in Greece. So that makes 2 Greece death cards for this unboxing so far, and you don't see a lot of cards from the Greek campaign, actually, so those are kind of unusual. Moving on to the next envelope here. Looks like we do have a sales invoice in there, so I'll go ahead and open that up off camera. All right, so here we have the death card of Gustl Mosbauer, Obergefreiter and officer's candidate, I believe, in an infantry regiment, who was born on March 1st, 1920 in Günzburg, and fell on August 10th, 1944 in Lankalskiai. And we have a nice outdoor photo here, which is kind of unusual. And just take a quick look under the jeweler loop. And yeah, that has all the hallmarks of period printing. So if you're curious what I'm actually checking for there, there's a few different things. I have a video on how to tell if a death card is original or not. I'll link it up there so you can go take a look for yourself. But yeah, very unusual seeing outdoor photos, so I always try to pick those up when I can. And moving to the next envelope here. And it looks like similarly there is a sales invoice in there. Alrighty, and here we have the death card of Lorenz Stettmer, who is a Soldner son von Hohenberg, Gefreiter in the 16th Bavarian Reserve Infantry Regiment, bearer of the Iron Cross 2nd Class, who on the 21st of July, 1917, was hit by, grenade or mortar shot. It died at the age of 23. So the 16th Bavarian Reserve Infantry Regiment was the List Regiment, which Hitler served in during World War I. So I do occasionally see cards for them, and I try to pick them up when I can. Now, there's a bit of unusual. There's these 2 marks here that are quite sticky, actually. And as we can see from the sales invoice, we have a faint imprint of the card. So I've noticed this on a few of the packages I've opened, and I don't know if this is just ink bleed because of poor quality wartime ink or what. So I have no idea what these are because they don't seem to be tied to anything in the envelope. Kind of unusual. Yeah, it seems to be some kind of glue, but I don't know what it would be from because it was just wrapped up in the sales invoice. Same seller as the last one too, which didn't have that. So very, very odd. All right, moving on to the next one here. Alrighty. Alright, so the first card we have here is for Walter Weber, who is an Obergefreiter in an infantry regiment, veteran of the campaigns in Poland and France, born on March 23rd, 1917 in Augsburg, who fell in the East on January 27th, 1942. Really nice full-body portrait of him there in his dress uniform. And the other card we have here is for Johann Krapf, who died on December 31st, 1945, in a hospital in Novodobrinsk by Stalingrad at the age of 21. We have an actual photograph up here, which is rather worse for wear, but seems to show him in a helmet. You do see that sometimes. Rather than having a photo printed on the card, the family will just cut an actual photograph out, but they're a bit more uncommon. And yeah, dying in a hospital in Stalingrad post-war is kind of an interesting combo there as well. All right, moving on. We are getting there. Like I said, this is going to be a long video. There's still quite a few envelopes left to open up. Alrighty. I think this is the only one in there. Yes, it is. So this is the death card of Karl Pillmeyer, who was bearer of various awards, who died on October 12th, 1944 at the age of 42 in the East. And moving on to the next one. looks like we do have another sales invoice, maybe. No, actually, it's just blank paper used as packaging. All right, so we have the... Is it taped? Okay. It's always fascinating to me the many different ways that people mail these cards. Yeah, because the way that tape's on there, I don't know. Yeah, I just rip it off like that, I guess. It's not the way that I would have sealed this. Have to be careful when I take that out. Okay, good there. So this is the card of Adolf Harant, who was an Unteroffizier in a Grenadier Regiment, bearer the Iron Cross Second Class, the Infantry Assault Badge, the Eastern Front Medal, and the Wound Badge in silver, who fell on December 29th, 1943 in the East at the age of 29. And it looks like he's buried in the cemetery in Garkovo, south of Vitebsk. So that's probably why I bought this card. I've been doing a bit of work on Battle of Vitebsk recently. I'll link a video up there if you're interested in seeing it. But in this photo, we actually do see his ribbons there, the Infantry Assault Badge. And I'm guessing that's his Wound Badge in silver, though it seems to be in the wrong place. Huh. Yeah, because it seems to be worn a bit higher up in the center pocket there, because normally that'd be reserved for like an EK1 or something, but maybe I'm wrong. And moving on to the next envelope here. Oh, so this is, I'm very excited about this card. I actually forgot this one was coming in. So this is the card of Josef Drexler, Obergefreiter in a Granatenwerfer Abteilung, or a mortar detachment, who had the Iron Cross Second Class Eastern Front Battle, and he died in October of 1943 in the Kerch Peninsula at the age of 22. Now, the reason I bought this card is because of this little note up on the side here, which says Sepp, which is a nickname for Josef, has returned home. Now, I've been collecting death cards for many years now. I have, by my estimates, well over 1,000 cards in my collection. I've never seen that on a card before. And so I'm very curious when I research this if it's going to prove true that Josef doesn't have any casualty records listed and thus very well may have come home. You know, it's not a very uncommon story from World War II. You hear it occasionally of people being declared missing in action or killed in action unintentionally when they're actually already in a hospital or still with their unit. So I wonder if that's something similar to happen to Josef here. Given the fact that we have the note that he finally came home, I'm guessing that he was probably captured, his comrades assumed he was killed, and, you know, this could be years after the war. I mean, there were German POWs in Soviet captivity well into the 1950s, as I said earlier. So definitely a very neat story, very cool card, and definitely looking forward to doing some good research on that. So moving on here. All right, and similarly, there's a sales invoice. All right, we have two cards here. First one is for Franz Xavier Neppel, who was a Sanitäter und Offizier in a Luftwaffe unit, who on 29th February 1944, in an Italian hospital, died at the age of 27. And the other card here is for Josef Gross, who was a Fallschirmjäger, bearer of the Fallschirmjäger Assault Badge and the Wound Badges, the Iron Cross Second Class, the Ord Kampf Award, so I'm guessing Eastern Front Medal, the Luftwaffe Honor Award, I'm thinking, and he's a veteran of the campaigns in Norway, Finland, Italy, and Russia. So Norway is something I don't see on death cards very often. So I can think of a few actions the paratroopers were involved in Norway. So I'm curious if I'm able to find Josef's unit, what I'll be able to find out there. But it looks like he was killed on July 12th, 1944 in the heavy fighting in the East at the age of 22 and a half. So definitely a very unusual and rare card there. And it does appear to be genuine under the jeweler's loop, which is always good. Though to be fair, very rarely are cards faked. You know, you only really see them with SS and like Knights Cross winners, things like that. So normally you don't have to worry about it, but for some of the more unusual cards, I do like to check. And moving on to the next one here. All right, we have the card of Siegbert Bauer, who was an Unteroffizier in the infantry or in the regular army, bearer of the Iron Cross, various other awards, who died on March 15th, 1945 in the East. So you see cards like this occasionally that have like clipped out newspaper print on them. I don't know a ton about these cards. My assumption is that this was a way for the family to save money. So Siegbert's family might not have had a lot of money to go around at this point, and so as a way to save costs on his funeral card, they were able to, you know, use the newspaper block here, which probably, if this was a small town, this was printed at, which I'm not sure. You know, it's quite possible that was even the same print shop that was printing the newspapers. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that. But still, pretty interesting card. And moving on to the next one. So here we have the card of Unteroffizier Balthasar Etzbach. That's a pretty unusual name. Bearer of the Iron Cross, first, second class, who was born May 15th, 1922. And it looks like he had a brother, Johann. And we have actually a pretty detailed background here. I'm seeing kind of like what I call like a biography card. Like there's a lot of nice biographical information here. Just trying to pick out certain things. Something about becoming a Flieger, December 5th, 1941. I see 6 Brüdern, so 6 brothers. I see another date there. Became a Hauptmann, November 19th, 1944. I'm seeing April 13th, 1945, so I'll have to fully translate that later. But we can see at least 2 photos here for 2 of the 6 brothers, I'm guessing. Yeah, kind of an unusual one. I'm very curious to see what that says now. All right, we have 4 more envelopes to go. We're almost there, I promise. Let's see what we got in here. Oh, we got a sales invoice, what we have in there. All right, so this is another seller that actually includes some information with their cards when they sell them. I believe the next 4 sets are all going to be from them. Let's see what we have here. Take them all out of the pack at once. All right, the first card we have is for Johann Jettinger, who was a soldier in an artillery regiment who died on April 17th, 1944 at the age of 37. And according to the sales invoice here, yeah, so Johann apparently took his own life at some point during the war, which not a very common cause of death, but it is one that you do see occasionally. Josef Ungerbauer, who was an Oberschützer and a Packabteilung, who died on October 16th, 1944 in the East at the age of 19 years and 6 months. And it looks like he was attached to the 291st Infantry Division. Oh, we have a color card here, so this is kind of unusual. Most death cards are black and white, but you do occasionally see some color on a few of them. And this is the card of Ludwig Silch, or Gilch, who was a Gefreiter in an infantry regiment. Oh, he's a shoemaker as well. And he was killed on November 10th, 1941, at the age of 30 and 10 months. Very nice photo of him there. And it looks like he was a member of the 713th Infantry Division, and he was actually killed when his transport was torpedoed off the coast of Greece. Which is pretty interesting. Benno Koch, who was an Obergefreiter in a Maschinengewehr battalion, who fell on February 26, 1942. Now, it looks like he was a member of Machine Gun Battalion 13 and was killed on the Icemere front in Finland. And the last card that we have here is for Johann Holmberger, who's a Gefreiter in an infantry regiment, bearer of the Iron Cross, 2nd class, and the infantry assault badge, who died on January 19th, 1943, in an assault at the age of 23. And Johann, according to the sales invoice here, was a member of the 199th Grenadier Regiment, which is the List Regiment. So we had a card earlier from the List Regiment World War I. This is a soldier that was with that regiment during World War II as well. So you're probably wondering where I'm getting that information from. So the same way that I research my death cards, this seller is referencing Ancestry and then using that information as part of their auctions. And like I said, not a lot of sellers do that. I always appreciate it because while I do like just buying cards without knowing their stories, it is nice kind of also having cards that you know for a fact you're going to be able to research. So they tend to go for a bit more of a premium, but not too bad. Like I said, these are all from the same seller, so I think we're going to have sales invoices for all these. Alrighty. I will say they packaged these a bit tight in there. Luckily, it doesn't look like there's any damage. So the first card that we have here is for party member Hermann Heringer. That's what the PG stands for there. And he died on February 28th, 1944. Very unusual photograph. Appears to have been taken outside, actually. And what's interesting about Hermann here is that his cause of death is very unusual. He was murdered by drunken Estonian soldiers. And he also comes from a very unusual unit. I can't remember what it is in German off the top of my head, but it seems to be like a vacationer retrieval unit. So my best guess is that Hermann was part of a group of soldiers that was going around picking up guys that were late getting off leave. And apparently when they came across this group of Estonian soldiers, they tried to tell them they had to come back, and one of them shot him. That's my current guess as to what happened. So very unusual there. Next card we have here is for Georg Wien, who is an Obergefreiter and Kraftfahrer in a flak unit, who was bearer of the War Merit Cross 2nd class and the Eastern Front Medal, who died in a munitions explosion, it looks like, on March 14th, 1944, or a munitions accident of some kind, at the age of 33. And it looks like he was attached to Jaeger Regiment 83 at the time of his death. Next card that we have here is for Josef and Johann Zimmerer. Josef fell on January 3rd, 1942 at the age of 27. He was an Unteroffizier. And Johann was a Gefreiter who died on October 6, 1944 at the age of 33. And it looks like one of them was in the 10th Infantry Division and the other one was in the 544th Volksgrenadier Division. So both of them seem to be able to be researched. And the last card from this pack is Georg Wust, who was bearer of the Iron Cross 2nd class and some other awards, it looks like, and died at the age of 23 on June 25th, 1944 in the East. And he's part of a Sturmgeschütze Abteilung, or an assault gun unit, and we can actually see his assault gun wrap here. And he was apparently attached to Sturmgeschütze Brigade 281. Oh, we have a nice HCOM backing there as well. Normally they'd put his information on the back of the sign here, but this one's blank. All right, moving on to the next one. This is the second to last envelope. And we have the sales invoice there once again. All right, so what do we have here? The first card is for Emil Nebel, who is a Gefreiter in a Fliegerhorst, or a flying unit, I'm guessing, who fell on February 26, 1942, in the heavy fighting by the Ilmensee at the age of 21. So Lake Ilmen have quite a few cards for guys that were killed there as well. And he seems to have been a member of Luftwaffe Felddivision Meindel. So Felddivision Meindel, the first card that I ever bought, actually, the soldier was from that same division. That's why I remember picking this card up. And the next card we have here is for Johann Baptist Haberzet, who is an Obergefreiter in the Luftwaffe, who died for the fatherland on December 26, 1942 in the East at the age of 23. And he's buried at a cemetery in Porkov, Russia. And he was also a part of Division Mindel. That's kind of nice crucifix. I don't think I've seen that print on a card like this before. And the last card here is for Josef Ott, who was an Oberjäger and a Kriegsfreiwilliger and a Gebirgsjäger regiment, bearing infantry assault badge, Eastern Front medal, the wound badge in black and silver. And it looks like he was wounded April 11th, 1942, and died of those wounds November 15th, 1942, in a hospital. And it looks like he was part of Gebirgsjäger Regiment 206. And he was also killed fighting at the Ilmenzy, or wounded fighting at the Ilmenzy, Lake Ilmen. So, you know, when you've been talking so long that, like, words kind of start losing meaning? I feel like that's the point where I'm at. I keep, like, mispronouncing things, and I feel like I'm just speaking gibberish at this point. We're at the last envelope before we get to the big package. And we have a few cards here, 4 of them. So first card here is for Johann Karl, Unteroffizier in a Gebirgsjäger regiment who died on August 20th, 1943 in the East at the age of 24. And it looks like he was part of Gebirgsjäger Regiment 85. And then we have Adalbert Hertel, who is a Lieutenant in a Grenadier Regiment and bear the Iron Cross 2nd Class and the wound badges. And very interestingly enough, we have the life and death runes used here, which you very seldom see on death cards. And he was born October 18th, 1922, and died October 28th, 1943. Interesting. And no, at least without reading through all of this, it doesn't seem like there's much religious symbolism, the use of the death runes here, or the death and life runes here. I'm guessing that Adalbert and his family probably weren't very religious. But I'd be curious to see when I do the research there. Oh yeah, he was apparently according to the sales invoice, he was attached to the 46th Infantry Division. Karl Gotz, who is a Schützen in a Gebirgsjäger regiment. He died at the age of 30 after being killed on June 28th, 1941. And it looks like he was a member of the 99th Light Infantry Division and died in Ukraine. And the last card here is for Karl Gotz, who I believe is his brother. Oh, interesting. So we have 2 different cards here for Karl. Different photos used in each, actually. But yeah, other than that, everything else seems to line up. And different backings, which is also fairly common. So this could be 2 different printings, I'm guessing, just based off the difference in coloration and the backings. Apparently, it wasn't all that uncommon for families to reprint death cards for, like, anniversaries and things like that. For the deceased. So think like maybe a year or a couple years after his death, they'd do another printing and send those out to everybody. Kind of help their memory live on. But yeah, so that's all the death cards, and that was quite a few of them. So hopefully y'all enjoyed that. Currently at 45 minutes. It'll be less than that when I cut a couple things out. But yeah, now we're moving to the big box. So as you saw from the thumbnail, and you're going to see now, this box is marked Fragile. So normally I would, flip this over and open it from the bottom. That way I don't have to worry about tearing off all the labels and everything. But given this is fragile, I don't want to do that. So I'm going to open it somewhat off camera. You'll still be able to at least see the knife working. Just this way I can open it from the top in case it's, packed in such a way that you should be opening it from the top, which I'm assuming it is. And cut it this side. And cut across the top. Now these are really cool. I've been waiting for these for a long time. Alrighty. A lot of packaging here. The box was a little beat up, so I'm actually kind of afraid that they didn't make it, but we will see. I'm so nervous that they didn't make it. It's looking okay so far. All right, that's one. Whew, that looks like it made it in one piece. And there should be a second one in here. Some tape in here I gotta cut. And the second one feels like it made it one piece. And I think there should only be 2 in here, and there should be 2 in the other package. And that appears to be the case. Alrighty, so we'll go... I'm going to save that one for last, because the other one's the rarer one. So we'll go ahead and open this one first. So, it was common practice in Germany prior to World War I that soldiers would commemorate their service with some kind of souvenir. You know, whether that be a porcelain pipe that has the information of their unit on it, or a porcelain canteen, or a stein. Now, German regimental steins are very highly reproduced. They're very popular. And so there are a lot of fakes out there. However, there's pretty good resources online for identifying original period pieces. So this came from a seller that I worked with a while ago and hadn't heard from for a bit. And he found some gorgeous steins. So look at that. So one of the tells right off the bat you're looking at an original is you can see all of these beautiful hand-painted additions here. You know, this isn't just like a printed design. They actually went in and painted some of this. That is gorgeous. And the colors, I hope the camera's doing the colors justice. This thing is popping. So this is for a guy who is in an artillery unit. Let's see here. It should be named somewhere. Yeah, Cannoneer Boya or Bena. He should also be on the list here. I'll double check and I'll put the information down in the comments. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful pewter lid here with the cannon. You know, as you can see, it's a little beat up. It's definitely been used a bit over the years. And the other cool things with these is they have lithographs in the bottom. So if I get a flashlight here real quick. You know, I own more conventional flashlights. This is just the best one I could find. So, yeah, as you can see here, if I rotate this, have a scene of 2 German peasant women in the bottom there. So a lot of the fakes will have rather explicit lithopanes. Those did exist in the period, but they are almost unheard of on regimental steins. So if you see one of those, that's a good tell that it's a repro. And yeah, you can just see the wear here. I mean, these are pieces that were actually supposed to be used. And then, yeah, on the pewter lid here, you can see it's a lot shinier on the inside than the outside, so it's got uneven oxidation, which is what you want to see. The handle, or the lid, looks like it's a bit loose. I don't know if that's from shipping or if that's how it was before, but that's not a problem. I mean, this is just going to be sitting on a shelf, really. But yeah, just gorgeous, gorgeous piece. Now, the other one is very rare. So the artillery is a bit obviously more uncommon than infantry. This next one, though, is cavalry. Well, I thought this one was cavalry. This is an infantry one. I have a cavalry one coming. It'll be in the next box that I'm literally going to tack on to the end of this video. So we have an infantry stein here. And similarly, we have this gorgeous, bright paintwork on here. Yes, this is for the 3rd Baden Infantry Regiment. Big Frederikun. And you can see that these dots, they're hand-painted on. You know, most of the fakes are just, you know, just a transfer to the porcelain, but yeah, a lot of high details have been added here. Beautiful piece. And you can see, yeah, wear on the bottom. Also, a lot of the fakes are maker's mark. They'll say Germany or West Germany, or very rarely will you actually see studio marks on these. And then the very cool pewter lid here, as we can see, has a soldier sitting down. He's got his canteen up, wearing the Piccolauba, with his rifle across there. And then inside, similarly what we'd expect to see, the inside lid's a bit brighter. And then this one also has a lithopane. I believe all the ones that I got from the seller actually do. And yeah, we have a similar kind of domestic scene here. That's not really showing up as well on camera as I'd like, but yeah, you can see that pretty well. So yeah, once again, also the lid here is just loose with age. So that seems to be common across all these. Oh man, I have wanted regimental steins for a while. And so when the seller reached out to me after a while out of the blue and told me that he was interested in selling a set of these for a price that I really couldn't refuse, I had to pick them up. And they are going to look so good on a shelf, especially since I have going to have the complete set with the cavalry that'll be here tomorrow. This is so cool. I can't tell you guys how cool these are. I'm going to have to take like some glamour shots of these and add them on to the end of the video or something, because they really are just stunning. So yeah, I'm going to cut it here. In about 2 seconds, you're going to see me from tomorrow adding on the extra video for the last box. All right, package number 2. Again, neighbor like 2 orders down is mowing, but I don't think that the audio will be able to pick that up. Very excited. I've been thinking about this quite literally all day, and then I was in the office later than I thought I was going to be through no circumstances of my own. Just a billion things going on at once. So I am looking forward to opening this because I'm very excited. Alrighty. Yep, and as I try to flip my tripod up a little bit, oh boy. Let's see, that's one. I'll try to set this down in such a way it doesn't topple over. Okay, just set that on its side then. That's the safest. Here's this is the stein that I've been waiting for out of the 4 of them. Like, this is the super cool one. I mean, they're all really cool. We'll save that one for last. All right. So here we go. So this one's kind of interesting. So it bears all the hallmarks of an original. We can see there's actually some sections that have been touched up and painted on here. It's named to a Georg Hofner, looks like. But it's a bit unusual in the sense that it doesn't have one of the specialty lids. It has what is actually a fairly common lid for an early 20th century civilian stein. Definitely appears to be period, not like artificially aged or anything. So yeah, a bit of a mystery on this one. This handle's actually still pretty solid as well. And let's see here. We have 2nd Artillery Regiment, 4th Battery, Nuremberg, 1890-92, Georg Hofner. And also notice he doesn't have his comrades' names on the side of this either. So the guy that I bought this from had a theory that this was purchased a while after this guy's military service. If he served in the 90s, he's thinking that maybe sometime in the early 1900s he had this commissioned, which is why he wasn't able to get like the military-style lid, because he's kind of had fallen out of favor by that point. So not 100% sure if that's true, but it does bear all the other hallmarks of an original. It's got good wear, no maker's mark, handle shape's correct, and like I said, there's a couple places on here. I don't think it's picking up super well on the camera, but you can tell that like some extra paint has been, some of it's hand painted. It's not just all printed design. So pretty interesting. Yeah, it's also a bit smaller than the other ones, which is perfectly fine. Actually, I like the red gem. It kind of, I know it's just glass, but it catches the light quite nicely. And the last one, the big one. Yeah, so here we have a cavalry stein, which is super cool. 3rd Squadron of 2nd Baden Dragoon Regiment, number 21, 1904 to 1907. This belonged to Reservist Schaefer, which is super cool. And we can actually see Schaefer's name is listed on the roster there as well. Yeah, once again, you can tell there's actually some nicely painted detail work on here. And probably one of the coolest things, to me at least, is the lid has this gorgeous pewter cavalryman. Super, super cool. And you can actually see that the flag here is painted with Baden's colors. Very nice. And the lid on this one is also pretty solid, so that's good to see as well. Very cool, and you can actually make out a bit of the lithopan that's at the bottom there. I'm so excited. When I saw that he had a cavalry one, I was like, you don't see those very often. You know, I've looked at these before, so now, thanks to that, I have, let's see, cavalry. Trying to figure out the best way to film this. I got a bunch of crap elsewhere on this table. Yeah, if you excuse the mess. So we have our cavalry stein here. Have our infantry stein, our other infantry stein, and then artillery. I just stepped on some bubble wrap. Oh man, that is a cool set. I'm super pumped. Yeah, especially, like I said, that cavalry is just, it's gorgeous. And then, yeah, on top of some very nice Imperial German steins, we have a giant stack of death cards to research in the future. So yeah, probably one of the bigger, longer unboxings I've done in a while. Obviously, it's going to be a minute before I do another one of these. This was a good chunk of my budget for the year, but super, super excited to have these. But yeah, overall, I hope you guys all enjoyed the video. Please leave a comment down below. Love hearing from you. Thank you all for watching. Happy collecting, and I will see you all again very soon.